Hello and welcome back to Solo for Thoughts. Well, Solo Thoughts. I can't believe I said that. Welcome back to Solo Thoughts. So, I've been wanting to jump back on these. I'm trying to find the appropriate way to do this because I have very little time in the morning and then I have very little time in the evening. I suppose the evening is the best, but I don't know. I'm tired. But anyway, I wanted to discuss the outdated mobility in Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a little over, 3 years now? We're 2025, yeah? And, my goodness, after playing Night Rain has ruined everything in terms of mobility for Elden Ring. And definitely going to explain why. So in Night Rain, obviously, you can run. And then you can also vault. We've only seen vaulting in 2 other From Software games. Demon Souls, for God's sakes. Sekiro is more in line with what Night Rain is. But it's always been weird to me how we've had vaulting in Demon Souls, then they cut it out. We could have had very interesting level design. And it's a shame that that is a aspect of the From Software games that has not evolved. It was just cut out. Same thing with cutting Dragon Tails. And it's just really baffling to me. Why cut out such an aspect, such a mobility aspect that can create flexible, complex level design? I'm not saying that the level design is definitely bad in the From Software games. It's definitely been on and off. I don't want to get into what I consider really bad in the front because I'm probably get crucified if I mention what I consider one of the worst level designs in the lineup. But I'm not going to discuss that here. So in Night Rain, you can just dash, pressing L3. Now, of course, the equivalency to that in Elden Ring is with Torrent, and obviously with just holding down the whatever is the dodge button for your system of choice minus PlayStation, which you're going to catch me saying stuff like circle and triangle. So I'll try my best to use the proper language. So, universal language. And after playing Night Rain, I found myself wanting to press L3 a lot. And obviously I do have Torrent, but Torrent isn't always available. So this makes Elden Ring very slow, extremely slow, almost unbearably slow. And I'm also thinking about areas where you have to run a good distance. Think about the beginning of Elden Ring where you have to even reach Torrent. And it feels like it takes forever, even though it is only a couple of minutes. It feels like an eternity to get Torrent. And I understand what the game is going for. Slow burn, I get it. However, after you've beaten Elden Ring as many times as I have, you just want to get Torrent and go. And then we also have that section of the game that takes roughly 15 minutes to reach. And I am talking about from Morgott to the Fire Giant. And even after you defeat the Fire Giant, you still have a long way to go. And I don't want to dismiss Farum Azula at all. It's definitely an amazing place. In fact, there's this one section that I have to give a lot of praise to because it actually has a lack of Site of Grace and Marika's. It's not the most rewarding spot of the map. You just basically get a lightning clutch ring, fully upgraded, +2 lightning crutch ring that brings your lightning negation, I believe, up to 28%, which is definitely a very valuable item, obviously for lightning attacks. And you get to fight a Crucible Knight at the very end of those annoying birds. You know, one thing I noticed is that birds are not in Night Rain, at least what I remember. Why not? Why did they decide not to put... Is it because they were super annoying? I swear, even with a bow, you can get a bow for these birds, and the bows feel like they just go right through these birds. They just move around too much. I'm like, what is the proper strategy with these things? I don't even care if I one-shot them all the time. I cannot stand these birds. And mainly because the birds are mandatory to get through to access Malekith. You know, that section that has an ancient dragon at the end. You got to go through that path of birds. Every time I get to that section, it reminds me of the movie Birds at the very end, but except the birds are actually attacking you. Oh my god, it is a infuriating spot, and I'm always trying to find ways to get through. There actually is a bypass that speedrunners use, but I can never seem to get it to work. You got to do a lot of level scaling. And I'm like, why couldn't they just give us I would much rather deal with a really highly demanding platforming section than having to deal with these birds. Now, sometimes you can just run right through it, and you might get lucky, and the birds will not aggro you to death, but I'm also thinking about the mobility of Night Rain. If you could just run a little bit faster, these birds would not be a problem. And I also want to address, before I forget, about the tombstones. In Night Rain, you have these tombstones you can actually scale up, use the vault mechanic, and go up to higher areas. And also spring jumps as well. I don't really think the spirit bird, the spirit hawks, whatever they're called, are 100% necessary. I didn't really use them that much in Night Rain. I understand how they're useful for sure, but I feel like that's more of a Night Rain aspect. Now, the tombstone, wherever you see tombstone steps in the base game of Elden Ring or whatever, including Shadow of the Erdtree, there definitely should be that vaulting. You should at least allow the player to vault that. You don't even have to let the player vault all the time, just at that one spot. Vaulting designated areas, I think, should be allowed. Spirit vaulting, maybe. Like, just tell the player, hey, when it comes to these tombstones, you magically gain the power to vault. I don't know. More than likely, nothing is going to be changed in the base game of Elden Ring. Tarnished Edition is coming up. They are adding new things. They say it's for the Switch too, but I'm pretty sure they're going to add it for the main systems. I don't know why they would totally ignore main primary consoles. And when I say that, I just mean PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I'm also hoping that they will fix a lot of problems that still exist in the base game, and of course including the DLC. There are still tons of problems in the DLC, and I think a lot of these will just be solved if you could just run faster, just base running just a little bit faster, not as fast as Night Rain's running. Maybe you can double tap L3 to run that fast, but I think there definitely should be a throttling going on. You tap L3 once, and you can run like you do currently. But I don't actually know. Actually, let me go back on that. When you hold down the dodge button, the run button, whatever, you have that running speed. But then you can press L3 to get that Night Rain boost, and I think that would work just fine. Another thing I would like to see changed is the crouching. The crouching is god-awful. I have to bypass it. I have to change my button setup. The only way that I crouch now is by pressing directional button up. And that basically means I cannot switch my magic unless I press L3, I think is what it is now. That's only beneficial to me because I don't use magic in this game. But crouching is, I can understand some of it can be used for evading attacks, but that's actually more beneficial if you just simply attack. If you attack, you can use the crouching motion to evade a swing, and I feel like that's just more valuable in general. Crouching is really, I would have to look at some of players with a lot more time than I have and see how often the crouch is used, but really crouching is not that valuable in Elden Ring. It's really not. I don't see it discussed much. I don't know why it's there personally, and maybe I'm just forgetting about something, but whenever I'm just trying to think about moments where crouching was useful. Stealth, but stealth really, what's the difference between crouching and just walking slowly? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a difference, much of a difference. Hiding in brushes, sure, that's an example, but I don't really know if there's that much of a difference. So in Elden Ring 2, if they ever do make a sequel to Elden Ring, and I understand that Miyazaki wants to move on, I definitely respect that. I don't like, well, I won't get into that, but if we ever do get Elden Ring 2, we definitely need these mobility options. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if they just add this in Elden Ring in general. It would speed up that god-awful long 15-minute run to the fire giant from Margit. That is my least favorite section of the game because of how long it takes. It's only 15 minutes, but it, just like running the torrent for the first time, it feels like it takes an eternity. And yeah, I've played through Elden Ring several times, but it does not get any faster. There's no gate I can simply go through like I can in Learning of the Lakes, or from the whatever that fort is that takes me directly to Radon for the Radon Festival. Stuff like that's great when you understand those bypasses, those legitimate bypasses, the bypasses that were implemented in the game just so you could quickly get there. That's fine. Implement stuff like that. You don't even have to forget the running and the vaulting. Just create very interesting bypasses, and I don't think it would be that complicated. Triggers. And what exactly are you missing if you don't have that 15-minute trot? You just gotta go up to an elevator at the Morgott. I don't really know anyone that bothers defeating those enemies. There might be some valuable items, and I don't want to devalue that in any way. But you just run up to an elevator. You do have that nice little section where that horse chases after you, but as long as you just keep running and walking, it never affects you. That enemy has terrible tracking. And then you have that horrible run through the mountaintops of the giants. You got that fog you got to get through, and it's very linear. There's really nothing much there, and it is a very forgettable section. And then I do like that section where you get to cross that bridge with the golem shooting at you, but there's not really much there itself. It's more of a cinematic view, and also catches a player off guard maybe once. What person is going to fall for that twice? And then after that, you got another Iron Golem section that will drop some really good upgrade material. And also you get a split path. You either go across the freezing lake and fight Borealis Fog, which is a dragon fight I absolutely love. I love that fight. And you can also go to Castle Sol, which takes you to Commander Nile, another fight that I really like. I think that section is fine. I like that. I feel like that spot should not be missed. Perhaps cut all that in between, just so you can go straight to that side of grace that splits up the freezing lake and Castle Sol. If you can just take me there, I think I would be okay. But then after the freezing lake, you still have probably what feels like a good 5 minutes before you can reach the fire giant finally. And this is how I would fix it. I think perhaps you can still go through that section with the dogs and the fire dudes, the fire monks, whatever they're called, with the fire prelates, because I do like that section of the game. I think after you go by the chain, you should be able to access and vault the tombstones that lead you actually up to the what's it called? What is it called? Is that Crimson Tier? I don't really use it anymore, but why not allow players to just vault there? Because it's not really exactly that valuable of a exploration to reach that area. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will disagree with me on that. But why not just let players vault there? Yeah, it's a great crystal tier for the Elden Beast. I agree, but it is in such a tucked away spot. And I don't know, maybe I don't have a good argument here. Perhaps I don't. But I'm mainly concerned about just reaching the fire giant faster. As much of a cinematic view I enjoy watching the giants, the birds, and the hand spiders fighting each other, that's great. I do enjoy watching that. but there's not really that much value for me there other than just running right through there. What am I going to do? Fight all those enemies every single time? No. It's not that interesting of a level design setup. It's just more of, hey, look at these giant things fighting each other. Then you just basically run around them fighting each other. And technically the most valuable thing about that section is the top, you know, the last smithing stone you need to get your weapon to plus 25. So there are valuable things on that trail. I think really in general Mountaintops of Giants should have just been designed better. I think that's really just the main problem here, is that Mountaintops of Giants is just really poorly designed. It is way too spread out. It should have been stacked upon each other. Look what they did in Elden. Look what they did in Night Rain. I like how they designed that. That was actually much better. It feels like you're actually climbing a mountain instead of just running across a mountain. You have that section where you got Borealis of the Fog on top of that section of the Night Rain map when Mountaintops of Giants is added. You use spirit jumps. You can use spirit jumps. But you can also scale it. And it feels really good scaling that. Look what they did with, I mean, kind of Elden Ring, the Elden Ring base game kind of already has this, where it's a very interesting way to go up a mountain, and that's the long way to the volcanic manor. You use ladders, you can use spirit jumps. That is actually a very underrated part of the game in my opinion, and Mountaintops of the Giants should have been like that. And I think it would have made a lot more sense with Farum Azula being in the sky. Why not have that next to it? That would just make significantly more sense to me. So, just sitting here, just gushing all these criticisms out, made me just realize Mountaintops of Giants really just should have been designed better. But how do we fix what's currently there? And will it get fixed? Well, more likely not. We're probably going to have that same 15-minute rush every single time. And if anyone wants to defend that 15-minute walk, please go ahead. And unfortunately, it might just come down to simple preferences. Like, oh, well, I find this consistent all the way through in terms of build preferences. Sure. I mean, I can't argue with someone's level of enjoyment. And it's like saying it's like, what if someone says, I like the Grafted Scion because I like their combat set, I love their moveset, I like the way you dodge the tags, blah blah blah, the atrocious way you dodge. I'm sure somebody out there loves the Grafted Scion, but who am I to say that they're not supposed to? You cannot argue with preference. If someone enjoys something, hey, you know, what can I say to change their mind? I can only change minds based on facts and what I can find through research. How in the world am I going to research to prove somebody that they like or dislike something? It's just not. It's not fair. Like with Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay, I won't go there. I'm sorry. I've veered way off topic, and I'm almost at 20 minutes. But yeah, I'm really bad about going on topic. So anyway, yeah. I would love to see, and the game would need proper adjustments. It may not be the same game from when it was released, but we're going to get the final version of Elden Ring eventually, which is going to be the Tarnished Edition. When that comes out, that's going to be it. I doubt we'll get any more patches beyond that, and I would love to see changes that would make the game faster, because Night Rain is really affecting me. It's already affecting a lot of players. We need to have at least running a little bit faster would help with a lot of boss attacks, especially Waterfowl Dance. If you could just run a little bit faster, that attack would be a lot more intuitive, I feel. You see her jump up in the air, you take off. And then when you see her hop up in the air, you can read, oh, okay, well, I'll just run underneath her. It's a very complex and complicated attack still, but I feel that that attack would just make a lot more sense. And I feel that the satisfaction factor would be much better. And of course, a lot of people would encourage rolling, obviously. I hate that the up close rolling thing. It just irritates me whenever I see it. I don't like it. I don't want to learn how to do it. I like the running away method a lot better. It's a lot more satisfying for me. So anyway, that's my 20-minute rant. I try my best to keep these things small. I really do. But I think I could talk about this for another 40 minutes. But anyway, keep it bite-sized. What are your thoughts? Should Elden Ring apply night rain mobility? I think so. But if you disagree and you have a rebuttal, any kind of counter argument for this, definitely let me know. I love arguments. I have a lot of things I love to argue about, and perhaps I should make videos on those arguments. I like talking about remakes versus remasters, and then you have stuff like Elden Ring being more difficult than Dark Souls 3, whichever title you want to talk about. Let's get into some business. These arguments are fun, and the great thing about the way I approach it is that I don't take it too seriously. I apply my method of argumentation, and then most of the time, whatever I see, and I'll go into a little mini. If you want to, if the night rain part is over, if you want to close out, but I just want to mention my favorite arguments real quick, and how I like to argue with people. Generally, whenever I have a discussion with somebody online, a debate, argument, whatever, most of the time people just stop talking to me, or they get upset, or they just start looping points. And it's very interesting, especially when I have information to give them. Hey, check this out. This is why I believe this. This is the consistent reasoning that I have. And people all the time just want to stick with opinions. For example, I ask people, where did you get your definitions for remake and remaster? And pretty much every single time people say, oh, well, this dude on YouTube said it was this. Okay, where did that YouTuber get this information? Well, I just told you so, that should be good enough. No, give me a source. Can you give me a source? And then they'll give me the Google definition. Actually, what's funny is that people don't give me the Google definition anymore. They just give me opinions and articles. People used to just drop the definitions, but now that doesn't work anymore because the definitions are vague. Like remaster, for example. You look up the definition for remaster, it says to make a new master of. It doesn't say slightly enhancing graphics. It doesn't say that anywhere. To make a new master of. What does master mean? Original. Source, whatever. To make a new master of. Since when does remaster stop at a certain point of enhancement or upgrade? No, it doesn't. This is why we see games like Crash Bandicoot and Oblivion being labeled as remastered. It's because it's appropriate. And this is where it's just so funny to still seeing people just wanting to call Oblivion a remake. Why not just call it remaster? Why did remaster get such a bad rap in advertisement and on social media? Remaster is not a bad. It's not a bad thing to say about a title, and you can always visually tell what type of remaster it is. When you see Dark Souls remastered, you obviously notice, oh, that's just slightly enhanced. That's a slightly enhanced version of remaster. And then you see something like Oblivion remastered. Oh, well, that's definitely a high tier remaster type. Now look at remake. Silent Hill 2 remake. That's what they're calling it. I don't know if that's a remaster or a reimagining. Clearly, some aspects are reimagined and other aspects are remastered. But I don't know. I never played the original Silent Hill, and I just received the Dead Space PS5 release, and so far it looks like a remaster. There are some aspects that are reimagined slightly, but that doesn't weigh out the remaster aspect. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I'm sorry that I went off topic, but it's just that's something I really like to talk about. And perhaps I just need to talk for an hour about random things. But anyway, thank you for listening for that little extra few minutes, and I'll definitely talk to you later.